Shabbat Shalom. This week's Parshat Terumah, which we have the instructions for, Moshe receives instructions for building the Mishkan and the various pieces of furniture, you can call it, the vessels that were put in the Mishkan. And the first item to be described is the Aron, the Ark, or if you want to call it a box, which is it's a box. And what is this box supposed to contain? Well, on the face of it, it's very simple. The parsha of the on the Aron says, "Vel ha'aron titein et ha'edut asher etein elecha." You put in the Aron, you put in the Ark, the edut that I will give you. But when you look at the Meforshim, you see it's far from simple. What is edut? Well, many would say it's a testimony. Well, what's the testimony? Well, it's going to be the Torah. Well, what about the tablets, the luchot? Oh, well, the luchot are also called Torah. Okay, well, which luchot? Well, the luchot, the broken luchot, the first one, shivrei luchot. Well, that doesn't seem like we should be putting that in the Aron. But on the other hand, it seems like it should be in the Aron because, after all, when Moshe refers to that first set of tablets, he was told this is what he's supposed to put in the ark. So if he leaves the broken tablets where they are, he's not fulfilling the mitzvah. So the broken tablets should go in the Aron. Then, of course, the second set that remained complete should also go in the Aron for sure. And of course, we said Torah. Well, the Torah also should go in the Aron. And before you know, we've got a lot of things in the Aron, and then some of the Meforshim start, taking measurements to make sure that we can fit all the stuff in the Aron. And not to mention those who go off in other directions, which are not as strange as you may sound. You may think. Edut maybe comes from the word ilol ha'id, or aid, testimony, or witness, but from adi, which means a piece of jewelry, an ornament. Which makes sense because the edut here, it's the only place where edut in the Tanakh is written b'chtiv chaser, ayin daled taf, which makes it sound like the root is ayin daled yud, ayin daled hey, but then of course, what is the ornament? The ornament will be the Torah, so we're back where we started from. Anyway, we have a long list of possibilities, and I don't want to go through them all, and of course I'm not qualified or worthy of choosing between them. I just want to say something about the Rambam. The Rambam, it doesn't say, as far as I know anywhere, what is in the Aron. But he does tell us about what is in the Kodshei Kodashim, in the holiest of holies, that inner sanctuary, the inner sanctum in the Mishkan, and then in the two temples where the Aron was. It's in the 4th chapter, Parak Dalid, of Hilchot Beit HaBechira, laws pertaining to the Mikdash. And I'm reading here for you. Evan Haita B'Kodesh HaKodashim B'Maravov Aleh Haya Ha'aron Munach. There was a stone, presumably the famous Evan Shatia, in the Kodesh HaKodashim, in the Holy of Holies, where the Aron was rested upon it. And then L'fanav Tzintzenet Haman Umatei Aaron. But there were two other objects in the holiest of holies. There was a Tzintzenet Haman, this little jar that contained man. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe when the man came down in the desert, and this is what sustained the Jewish people for 40 years, take a jar, it's in Senate, and put in some man, and keep it for all the succeeding generations as a reminder. And Matei Aaron, this is from the chapter of the story of Korach, after Korach's rebellion, when there was still some grumbling and rumbling, and people who were not totally willing to accept the leadership of Moshe and accept Aaron being the Kohen Gadol, and so everyone had to bring in their wooden staff, and left it in the Mishkan. And the next day they found that Aaron's staff had flowered. V'yotzei Perach Vayatzet Sitzvay Gmos Kedim. And so we have here in the Kodesh HaKodeshim the Aron Abrit, that's in Senet Haman, and the Mate Aron. These things are mentioned in the Gemara, but there's one other thing that the Gemara mentions that the Rambam doesn't mention, he leaves out. That's the box, these trophy box with a gift that was sent by the Plishtim. If you recall the story when the Jews during the time of the Softim, when this is relevant here, when the Jews were not at their highest spiritual level, took the Aron HaBrit into battle, hoping that would help them win, and they lost, and the Aron HaBrit was captured by the Plishtim, by the Philistines. But when the Philistines took it to their sanctuary, it just caused them trouble. They had all sorts of plagues, and in the end, they realized that these were all coming upon them because they had this holy object that they had taken from the Jews, and so they sent it back to the Jews with a box with some gold objects as a sort of token of a gift, and this was put in the Mishkan as well. And the Gemara says it was also. I think the Gemara says it was also in the Kodesh HaKodeshim, but the Rambam ignores it. And so what I want to talk about here are these three things: the Aron. And let's presume, as the Langermann doesn't say, that like most people, he holds that it has the Shivrei Luchot and the Luchot. It would have the broken tablets and the complete tablets. This would make most sense because they were both supposed to go in the Aron. And it had the Mate Aron, the staff of Aron that it flowered as a divine message that Aron is really meant to be the Kohen Gadol. And it had its Senet Haman, the jar containing some specimens of the man that came out in the desert. What does this teach us? Well, and that the Rambam leaves out the box that was sent by the Plishtim. A lot of pagan and neo-pagan cults and groups would put in their sanctuary trophies. It's like a trophy cabinet, things that show that we won this and we won that, and we're champions then and we're champions now. This is not what we put in the Aron HaKodesh, in the Kodesh HaKodeshim. But we don't also put in just tokens of our guilt, though Jews have been known to have great guilt complexes. V'chatati lefanai tamid, David HaMelech said, I'm always, see before me, I'm confronted by the sins of my past. But this is to be aware of one's shortcomings, and not to deny one's failures is important, but to be obsessive about them and to go through life with this pathological guilt complex is not what it's all about. And so when we look at these three objects, what we see there are actually a token of some failing, but also of the tikkun, of its correction. The Shivrei Luchot, the tablets are broken because the Jews had failed. They had gone into some orgiastic pagan frenzy when Moshe didn't come down and built it and made the golden calf. But after that, Moshe took care of business, which meant destroying golden calf and killing quite a few of the sinners. The second tablets came down, and we were settled in with the Torah. There was a Korach rebellion, but with this last sputtering of that rebellion, when the final dissenting voices were asked to bring their staffs, and Aaron brought his staff, and the staff of Aaron flowered as a sign that Aaron was in fact chosen to be the Kohen Gadol, then that was the end of it. And that parsha, I've always been impressed. That parsha ends Vayiru Vayikhu Ish Mateu. Stop. That's in the Aliyah. Go on different topic. No more. No aftershocks. No additional muttering. They saw finally, after a series of events and challenges, that Moshe and Aaron were chosen by Kadosh Baruch Hu to lead the Jewish people, and that's it. And that was the end of it. And it's in Terumah. Now, what did the man? The man also came down as a result of a small failing of the Jews, a complaining immediately after coming out of Egypt. But the Rambam is a place to show that the complaints about being in the desert and not having something to eat or drink are not moral failings. Of course, we expect, we preach, we claim that we have this unending emunah, and a lot of Jews, particularly in their own day, have shown incredible sustaining emunah and belief in the face of wickedness, not just on the part of our enemies from without, but from the part of our enemies within. But still, for 600,000 people to be in the middle of the desert and to say, what are we going to eat? That's not so bad. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent down the man, and though there were a few, again, failings here and there, people didn't follow the instructions precisely, and they kept it overnight. But there was a tikkun, and the Jews lived on the man for 40 years. And after, again, these first, initial sputterings and resistance, there were no further complaints. So what we have in the Kodesh HaKodeshim are three examples of failings and of their correction, of their tikkun. The Shivrei Luchot, the Luchot Shlemim, Matei Aaron, and the Terumah. And I think this is the major lesson. This is why I think the Rambam also left out the thing that the Plishtim sent, because that was not a tikkun. I mean, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, for his own reasons, brought these plagues on the Philistines, and they realized that they couldn't hold on to their own anymore. But there wasn't any that the Jewish people had done some soul searching and mended their ways in this regard. So the three things that are in the Kodesh HaKodeshim are all emphasize what is really one of the central teachings of the Torah and the Jewish tradition, of tshuva, of tikkun. There are failings. Some are very serious. Some are less serious. But they all call for tikkun. They all call for repair, for mending, for healing. So I think this is a very good lesson to take from the. This is what the edus is. Edus for what the Jewish people stand for. And I'd like to leave you with this message and wish you all Shabbat Shalom.